Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Totally Not Mark, continuing with the Berserk reviews, and I have just finished Falcon of the Millennium Empire, and Jesus, what an arc that is. The ending blew my brain. It's so good, there's so much going on, and I just want to know what Mark has to say on it, so let's see, shall we? Oh my god, it's so good.
Falcon of the Millennium Empire arc is really good.
Yeah, it is. It's so sick. Mate. So much happens. And I was right. When Guts and Zod fight against that dude.
Every single time I sit down to read Berserk, I'm left both amazed and devastated. Amazed by the sheer depth of the series' narrative and artwork, devastated by the reality that this will likely never get the adaptation it deserves in anime. Last month, we left things off with the Black Swordsman party looking to secure a ship with which they wish to use to facilitate their travel to Skellig, the island where Elfham is.
Yay!
This is where both
Let's get Casca's memory back.
Without knowing who is who. Dramatic irony, hell yes! Isidro meets Mule and they both develop a funny rivalry while Shirokei meets Sonya, becoming fast friends in the process.
Yeah, that was interesting. I was like, whoa.
But ultimately Shirokei declines.
Thank
Funnily enough,
God.
during this too, Isidro meets a knight as he fights with the pirate Mort. This knight is obviously Azan, after taking the blame for Serpico and Farnese's leaving of the Holy Chain Knight.
I do think it's quite funny. He's pretending so hard to, like, be someone else.
The first portion of this section largely deals with Lady Farnese's desire to help her friends solve a rather persistent issue. The acquisition of a ship with which to sail to their desired destination. All the while, Serpico has his own issues he needs to deal with, but I'll get to him in just a second.
Guts and Serpico's fight, man. Ah!
From a self-obsessed, confused, and delusional girl full of hatred and sadistic tendencies to a strong young woman slowly coming to terms with reality beyond.
She's grown as a character, man. Oh my god.
Within her that's unmatched by many, if not all of the party. And it's a testament to her character that this warmth and care she shows towards Casca, and the desire she gets to broaden her horizons with magic, gets shelved or put on the back burner indefinitely for the express purposes of helping her friends acquire a ship, even if that means them moving on with their journey without her. It's an interesting plot point in its own right, introducing us to the broader family and the struggle for power and respect that dwells there. But, as I mentioned, it too serves and executes brilliantly the function of highlighting just how far Lady Farnese has come as a human being.
Definitely.
In the story. Furthermore, as a quick aside, I really like the role magic as a concept is playing in this tale.
Mate, it's got a lot going on, hasn't it?
Both figuratively and literally inside of her, opening herself up to the possibility.
I love that she's trying to learn the stuff as well. It's cool. It's like she's come a long way, man. Whoa.
Magic would act as somewhat of a validation for that change. However, now she seems to have lost her nerve, opting to be of use in the only way she sees herself to be of use to others, as a pawn providing a ship to her friends. However,
I mean, this was nice that she tried to do this, but come on, you're part of the gang now.
She unconsciously demonstrates that exact change she wishes to see within herself by making that very choice, leveraging her status as an aristocrat, marrying herself off. And while Guts and Co.
Did he just put the glasses on for a second? That's funny.
About this to rescue her from herself, the monsters they once saw at the shore.
Yo, this was like, okay. Wow, what's going on?
Before standing in their way.
Here we go. This fight was so cool.
Serpico versus Guts round 2. While Guts is all muscle and tenacity, Serpico is all strategy and tactics.
He brought him there for a reason. Yeah, the pillars.
For Isidro as he watches the conflict. Once upon a time, he was taught the value of understanding one's shortcomings as a fighter in a fight, and Serpico is the physical manifestation of that very idea to its extreme. But ignoring Isidro for a second, the story of this fight is a profound one that's beautiful in its depth of character introspection. Conflict, fights, and contests between two individuals in manga and indeed story are great because of the contrast and indeed information the readers or viewers can glean from that contrast. You need look no further than Goku and Vegeta in Dragon Ball.
Oh god, yeah. Jesus.
Luffy versus the world government in One Piece.
Ooh.
Two forces clash, they highlight their respective differences. In the prior two examples, many of the encounters these contests share serve to highlight the struggle between good versus evil. However, with regards Serpico and Guts in this instance, the contrast and conflict doesn't serve to highlight the struggle of good versus evil necessarily, but instead something far more nuanced and fundamental to each respective character that speaks to the soul of their respective designs. In Berserk, Guts represents struggle and tenacity.
Yeah, he does. Jesus.
Terror and destruction. Serpico, on the other hand, as he puts it, adapts to his circumstances to fill a role that is presented to him, to accept what is before him, even if it is unreasonable. And so, unbeknownst to me, as this fight unraveled, it revealed itself to be a classic clash of ideologies, not good versus evil necessarily again, but more so an irresistible force, Guts, versus the immovable object of Serpico. However, only one here seems to be struggling with something, and it isn't Guts. Addressing Guts as someone he, Serpico, who once turned a blind eye to everything, can now not simply ignore.
No, he cannot. Jesus, can you know? Like,
continues to change in this party. What that change might manifest as within him. And so, interestingly, while Lady Farnese' story is all about her desire for something more, to change herself, Serpico's story seems to be more about his desire to remain the same, to not change.
Yeah, he doesn't want to change like everybody else is. Yeah.
He used to. He doesn't trust Guts entirely.
No, because he's seen the Berserk of, like,
ends about as fast as it begins, however, and while there were some tremendous ideas on display with some wonderful introspection from Serpico, Guts emerges the victor. And the panels both leading up to and during this fight were spectacular. There's such a wonderful sense of motion with each panel beautifully improvised.
Yeah, I did feel like I was watching an actual fight happening, like, movement and that, like, it's so well done.
I really felt the rhythm of this one. Like a dance, the fight worked with the story being told, each more emphatic and effective because of each other. Following this event, Guts, Serpico,
There we go! Monsters!
are residing within. Just in the
I love how you kill one, it's sad, and then it's like, oh no, there's more!
But I may have noticed that there were some similarities to how Farnese was saved by Serpico when compared to Guts' saves with Casca way back. Instead of a flash of black, there was a flash of white before Serpico appears by Farnese' side, protecting her from harm. However, unlike the previous encounters where Farnese felt like a burden, while Guts was hacking tiger monsters in tremendous
Tiger monsters, man. They look sick.
Went to take down the source of the trouble in front of her family and indeed her companions. Farnese takes down a tiger.
Yeah, she does.
Proving to herself that she is capable of.
Well, it was silver, wasn't it? She said anything with silver you need to use.
Plot beat, I really like this. Something I did neglect to mention in the prior video was a certain encounter Guts has with a particular member of a significant group. You might have heard of him, the
God Hand.
As we saw in the Conviction arc, Conrad, one of the God Hand members, was responsible for the plague in Midland. All the while Slan, the girly God Hand member, was responsible for the orgy club Nina was part
Hell
of.
yeah.
During the events of this arc's first half, you may have noticed that we met with her again, manifesting herself via troll intestines, tempting Guts to use his Bayolet and become an apostle. The God Hand are always present in this story, and for a reason that's more than likely going to be
Always lurking around the corner, man.
Everything they've done so far, even putting everything in place for Griffith's incarnation ceremony, seems to be connected to Griffith himself. But Slan's presence here not only serves to make this obvious, but also to introduce us to something even more terrifying. Enter the Sword of Actuation.
Yeah.
Skull Knight sword made of Behelits. Otherwise known as the most metal concept for a weapon
It really is heavy metal, that, isn't it? Like, oh my god.
That has been specifically crafted to kill inhumans. The concept of this sword is absolutely insane and abundantly clear why Skull Knight is the main enemy of the God Hand members. It can basically cut through reality, reaching even the deepest layers of the astral world. You might remember the abyss that sucked in all the inhumans way back in, like, the Black Sword.
The Black Sword arc, yeah.
Yeah, the sword can get you even there if you want.
Whoa.
And this is how Skull Knight helps Guts out in that instance. But, man, we haven't seen yet just how fucking powerful this sword can actually be.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, so this part is sort of a transitional period between the scene we just finished with the party and the next big one. We're greeted by yet more stunningly and distressingly grotesque artwork courtesy of Miura himself.
It looks so good.
Illustrating the invasion of this land by the monsters that emerge from the shadows. Crocodiles, tigers, monsters, and soldiers all the same. It's quite ominous, and basically our takeaway at this point should be leaving this village will be no easy
It's
task.
gonna be difficult getting that boat out there.
Roderick is a badass who's
Roderick's pretty cool, yeah.
just like that. However, ship, they notice that the harbor is infested with monsters, hundreds of them. Shirake effectively tells Guts to step down and to leave it to her as they stand guard. They bide their time together as Shirake becomes a
She is so capable, man. She is so capable.
Area as scorched earth, destroying every single enemy available to her. I like this not just for the cool visuals, but also the team effort it took to pull this off. It's nice. However, it's not enough as tons more massive monsters suddenly appear, with Guts going
Let's
into
go.
and this magic man, I won't even attempt to embarrass myself by trying to pronounce the name of, appears. Impressed by Guts' ability and his armor, this is where things get a little cool. Shirake reaches
Oh, mate, when they
Guts'
merge.
to create this conscious state where Guts gets to use the Berserker armor while fully in control of his faculties. Thus,
So sick.
creating a sort of nice symbiotic relationship between these two characters that were once
This was
sort of at
awesome,
odds
loved
with
it.
each other. Moreover, specifically, I love this mechanism within the suit itself. It has direct ties to the Cracks in the Blade chapter's themes way back during the Conviction arc. To use the suit to its fullest potential is akin to embracing hatred itself, which, if we look to the Cracks in the Blade chapter, we can see this is akin to being selfish, meaning the hardest way, the most courageous way, is to do what's best for those you love and for those that depend on you. That's what makes for the correct moral choice in this series, and in essence, is what I love most about Guts as a character. This internal struggle, he's flawed, has desires, and yearns to do the right thing, even if it's the hardest path forward. I mean, he's a true hero. Again, this is a terrific piece of development for Shirake too. Since her introduction, she's been encouraged by one person or another to have faith in those she fights with. In this case, Guts. Time and again, she recognizes the circumstances Guts finds himself in as impossible to overcome.
Yeah, no one else can do it. Jesus.
On struggling forward. This fundamentally changes her, and in this scene, we see just how much she has changed. Willing to follow Guts' rash plan of action, placing all of her faith into him when he
So cool to see. It's like everyone's growing as characters. Ah!
and Shirake that speaks to both their characters perfectly. Shirake is required to shoulder the mental toil, while Guts absorbs the physical punishment. This is all to say that this fight was really cool, and honestly, I was expecting it to end here. However, it didn't.
Yo, this was so sick.
Just concluded our discussion on was actually just a warm-up fight to something I never in a million years saw coming.
No. Oh.
Zod makes the last-second save, and now he's teaming up with Guts.
This was so sick.
This one long and hard, and a large number of questions concerning this occurrence stepped into my mind. Is Zod an entity that aligns himself with individuals like Guts and Griffith when they fight with full conviction against a particular force? Does he have a camp with which he chooses to fight with, or is it random? And if it's not random, what dictates what his choices are narratively? There's this idea of destiny in this story I've explored a number of times, and instead of retreading that motivating factor for the millionth time, I'd like to look at what the story has physically shown us thus far with regards to him specifically. That being the number of times we've seen Zod prop up there.
He has popped up so often.
Some sort of conclusion, or at the very least, a theory. We can firstly consider that this foe he's facing off against with Guts is a shared enemy of both Guts and Griffith. So,
Yeah.
on the face of that alone, it doesn't seem contradictory to anything we've seen from him recently-ish. One of Griffith's main critiques of most people when asked about friendship was quite cold and detached. He has his dream. He's going to achieve it,
The
and
kingdom.
he meant that in the most honest and straightforward way he could. There are a few moments in this story where Griffith gets to speak frankly and introspectively with us as an audience to see, so I see this instance as pivotal not only for him, but how his relationship with Guts will ultimately conclude down the road. You just don't say stuff like this without planning for it to service the conclusion of an arc later on down the line.
Yeah.
From this scene, he cites that he couldn't really have a friend beyond someone that too chose to chase their dream irrespective of who or what stood in their way. That then, and only then, when another would pursue their dream in full mind, body, and spirit, could he respect them enough to see them as an equal worthy of friendship. And bouncing off of that idea presented by Griffith back during the Golden Age, I wonder if
Golden
the fact
Age.
Griffith is so inhuman in his devotion to his individual goal. I wonder if that is the mechanism by which he seems to have an allyship or connection with someone like Zod. And furthermore, why when Guts falters, he either faces Zod head-on or receives help from his metaphysical opposite in this world,
Interesting.
Skull Knight. There's a scene where Zod speaks to Sonya for a short while, within which Sonya acts as a proxy through which a question can be posed towards Zod concerning his destiny. It's a choice he needs to make. It is, and I quote, to again battle a sword that cuts your own flesh, or to make it
your own weapon. Yeah.
When I saw this quote, I sort of leaned back into my chair and tried to absorb the meaning of this beyond the obvious implications. Prophecy is clearly something that plays a pivotal role in this world.
And I did like Zod's like, oh, I guess that's how prophecies work.
When I look at Zod's contribution to the series, I think, okay, so he helps Guts, but then he also doesn't. He's sympathetic towards Guts, but then he tries to kill him while also helping his arch-nemesis Griffith. The quote directed towards Zod in this instance obviously speaks to a prime directive he seems to be at odds with in his mind, and indeed with those around him of similar nature. As a monster, he, like everyone else similar to him, feels this desire to squash Guts and devour him when he's weakest. He is a marked human after all, however, he chooses to deny that. Much the same way Ganishka has chosen his own path, resulting in one of the absolute best, and I mean best, two-page spreads
that was sick.
Series, but any comic or any
mate, that's a poster in itself, isn't it? That's like, whoa.
I want this as a poster.
There you go, yeah. There we go, yeah.
Incredible, dynamic, powerful artwork in a manga. But that too got me thinking about what this means regarding the second half of that quote from Sonya, that being, or to make the sword your own weapon. Naturally, this refers to Guts in this instance.
Yeah.
Zod and Guts, in the heat of battle, chose to work alongside one another to strike down Ganishka, a shared foe, before going their separate ways at the end, with plenty of symbolic gestures showing the growth Guts has undergone as a character. For if he were to have followed hatred, he would have, no doubt, died there and then. Which makes me wonder if this quote can be extrapolated upon and viewed through the lens of Guts and Griffith's relationship specifically. There seem to me, at least, to be a lot of parallels between this quote, Zod, and Guts' time spent on the pages of this manga. And so I wonder if a similar choice might present itself for Guts somewhere down the line. If we look all the way back to the Golden Age, following his desertion of the Band of the Hawk, he left in search of his own dream. In other words, he had no conviction at the time, which, if we cast our minds back to the chapter Campfire of Dreams, is exactly the topic of which he felt alienated by. And fast forward again, once he lost everything upon his return, he gained a tremendous hatred and, by extension, a desired goal. Through the conviction arc, we then learned that this desire he had to kill Griffith was an entirely vapid, cowardly, and selfish desire which flew in the face of his true dream, that being to save Casca. And in this moment, it's that exact impulse or dream which acts as his salvation. So it makes me wonder, Griffith has been a sword which has wounded Guts in the past. Will Guts, like Zod had to do here and now, need to make that same decision? A decision he struggled with since the start of the story. Will Guts be forced to make a decision not to kill Griffith, but to instead fight alongside him for some greater cause? This seems like the natural extreme or destination of this philosophy the story has been exploring, and
I am very intrigued to see what is going to happen next. It's like, it's so good.
Remember that we're only seeing this story really through the eyes and experiences of Guts for the most part. The most introspection we get from Griffith comes by way of Guts' point of view mostly. And the same can be pretty much said for every other character, which is what makes scenes like this one Sonya shared with Zod prior to his save all the more interesting and noteworthy. We follow Guts' struggle and travels, and due to that, it's easy to forget that, with regards to most other characters, Zod and Griffith included, they each have undergone a tremendous amount of suffering and struggle in order to achieve what their own respective goals are. Guts denies himself the catharsis of embracing hatred. Zod denies himself the desire to devour Guts when he's most vulnerable, and perhaps even Griffith, the most alien perspective to us right now, is also ignoring something he desires in order to achieve his dream. Switching gears for a second, let's talk a bit about Griffith.
Yes, please. Oh my god, yes.
Advancement onto the battlefield to face the weakened forces of the Holy See Army was presented in quite an unfamiliar fashion to me. For much of it, there's virtually no dialogue to speak of, forcing our full attention on the
well, the last few chapters of this arc, like, there's very, very minimal dialogue.
As they did in the Golden Age to save the day. I thought at the time of reading this that he would no doubt be looking to climb the ranks of this new army too, but Griffith is 10 steps ahead apparently. He challenges Ganishka to a fight one-on-one at another location far from here, thus creating a scene wherein he saves the entire army from certain destruction. This creates a fantastic morale and rapport between himself and his subjects to be right off the bat. Couple that with the presence of Princess
Charlotte. I was like, oh god, he is a genius.
Like we saw in Golden Age, but a full-blown savior in the eyes of these people. Griffith has finally become, in
Mm-hmm.
Speaking
Really
of
has.
godlike, Farnese progresses her training on the ship to the astral plane with some of the most beautiful page spreads I've seen from Miura. But moreover, this scene stands alongside one of my favorite quotes in this arc. I guess even if you force back what was lost, it still won't
That stuck
restore
with
what
me
it
in my
was.
head, yeah.
In this short but brilliant quote, there's callbacks to both cracks in the blade and also Casca's attempted suicide in the Golden Age arc. And funnily enough, it all stems from what Guts perceives Casca to be to him at that very moment in time. There's no question that she's an enormous burden, the likes of which even Guts on his own would struggle to handle. And we are talking about someone who can handle pretty much anything, it seems. She's terrified of him. She's effectively an entirely different person, void of speech or really any form of communication to him. What's left, he must be thinking. As she falls overboard and Guts jumps to save her, unlike during the Golden Age where he catches her, she slips through the fingers of his false limb and falls before needing to be rescued afterwards. Upon reflection, Guts shares this profound quote that speaks to the conflict in his mind concerning a question that he was posed in a prior section at the beach. They are traveling to Puck's home in the hopes that Casca can be restored to her former self. But what if she doesn't want to change?
Yeah, what if she doesn't want it, yeah.
Can't? What if you can't force back what was lost? What if it will always be the way that it is now? No do-overs. There's a tremendous amount of sadness in this chapter, and an all too familiar sense of hopelessness to boot. The limb that once reached out and saved Casca from falling is now missing, replaced with a weapon. A bringer of death without the ability to save what's most important to him anymore. It's a wonderful piece of symbolism that caps off this section of the story with a grim reminder that overcoming one's demons isn't as simple as many stories might lead you to believe.
No.
This isn't a Disney film or a Ghibli epic. And despite this being a tale of good and evil, fairies and dragons, zombies and monsters, it's also a story detailing a realistic struggle one man has to undergo for the sake of others, not just during a pivotal part of his life, wherein he learns a single lesson to overcome a singular trauma, but instead, this is a part of him that he has to now learn to live with and manage for possibly the rest of his life. The beast that dwells within him is there, alive and well, perhaps never to truly leave him in peace. Of all the demons that have followed Guts throughout this long, winding and harrowing journey, it's himself, the beast in black. His darker tendencies that will force him to run for the rest of his life, perhaps. Further adding another layer of interest and nuance to this growing quagmire of a problem he's faced with. Guts seems to find himself entrenched in an unsolvable situation. But at least for the time being, he still has his allies, his friends.
Yeah, man, he's got his own little group, the whole, like, yeah, band of the
with his incredible
beast.
coming in immeasurably handy to ensure their safe passage across the sea. It's a scene that reinforces just how much Guts needs these people he surrounded himself with. Thank heavens for them. For without, he would almost certainly be lost in every
Definitely.
sense.
God.
But okay, so that's what's going on with Guts' side of the coin. What about with Griffith?
Oh my god, here we go.
Whoa,
this was insane.
The massive changes his very presence implies in isolation. Due to this presence, his being alive and well once again, it means both mortal and astral worlds are getting closer, and many creatures and
Aren't
monsters
they?
that once
My
only existed
god.
in the first layer of the astral plane are now invading the mortal realm. As I alluded to a moment ago, this is because Griffith's newest incarnation shouldn't exist and therefore breaks the rules and laws of nature and the world itself. He's a super powerful astral angel in a physical body, with the likes of Skull Knight even going as far as to say that the only way that they can stop him is to also exist beneath the limbo that defines the natural order of things. Make sense of that if you can. Once resurrected anew, Griffith formed this new Band of the Falcon, or Band of the Hawk as it's referred to in this manga that I'm reading, composed of humans from both Midland and the Kushan Empire, as well as demons from the astral world. And so with this brand new army, he begins his offensive against the Kushan Emperor, Ganishka, an incredibly powerful apostle in his own right, one that negates the authority of the God Hand.
Mate, yeah, oh my god, this was so weird.
It's pretty wild, and man, when these two guys clash, it gets even wilder, in ways never before committed to the pages of this manga, and I'm not just saying that. These chapters made such a huge impression on me, so much so that I would honestly make it comparable to that of the Eclipse during the Golden Age. I don't know if that's a common opinion or not, but it's absolutely how I felt whilst reading it, because this is it. The
Demonic release, and they are all demons, and it's like, what?
Entirely and profoundly new. Prophetically, this battle between Ganishka and Griffith ends up becoming the fight that both literally and figuratively sets the foundations for Griffith's rule. On a figurative level, Ganishka presents such a profoundly incomprehensible threat to not just Midland, but the world.
The world itself, yeah,
so
my
much
god.
So that any individual that could possibly topple this monster would, no doubt, become a divine figure eligible to rule the world in the eyes of those that witnessed this struggle. And I mean that both in the eyes of man and monster alike. It's a total unification. Poetically and physically, this is the ultimate vision of the kingdom Griffith had. This battle not only is iconic for protecting the world, but also as the first instance for both humans and demons collaborating and helping each other in this effort.
fighting together, man. It's so cool.
The eradication of war and the birth of a new era. The transformation Ganishka undergoes is unlike any I've seen in any manga. It's horrifying while also managing to make me feel exceptionally insignificant and small as a reader. The sense of scale Miura manages to capture in these drawings is not only beautiful in an horrific sense, but also vital for this battle's final moments to work effectively. The greater the threat Ganishka can convince us he's capable of, the more incredible the people of Midland, and by extension, we as an audience feel Griffith's conquest will be.
Yeah.
The more the battle literally sets the foundations
Oh
for Griffith's
my
rule by physically
God.
acting as the catalyst that drags the worlds of the astral and mortal realms together in a convincing fashion, creating a kingdom the likes of which only exists in the minds of Griffith and children.
The way we zoom out to the moon and we see it all, it's like, what?
Incredibly outlandish and ethereal, yet oddly fitting for a series that has dealt with so much grotesque realism. This is a gorgeous moment of fantasy and respite, a culmination of everything Griffith has ever wanted, it seems. And the most impressive thing is, it's all conveyed with no dialogue.
No dialogue, yeah. It
This
was
is
just like,
attempting a world
fuck.
record and being so confident in your abilities to succeed in that effort that you do it blindfolded. This singular choice set this battle apart from every other clash in the series on a fundamental level for me. It felt as though I was watching one of those intense epic battles on film, like Lord of the Rings at Helm's Deep, with Ganishka's terror and fear of losing to Griffith, with his fear of the invasion he sees, with his fear of the feelings Griffith's presence forces him to feel. It leads him to make the strategic and rash decisions that on the surface made for a tremendously imposing adversary, all the while unconsciously playing right into the hands of prophecy unwittingly. And with Ganishka being one of the few demonic figures that actually pushes against face, failing, it makes me wonder how much control, if any, Guts and his party of friends possesses in reality. Skull Knight effectively told Guts that he has to defy destiny, but perhaps his efforts to defy destiny are actually part of a greater plan. And that's what makes this such an incredible story. You have no idea which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
Our next Berserk video will unfortunately be our last, as it will bring
Oh,
us to
mate.
the timely end of this exceptional, and I do mean exceptional, series. Hopefully, I'll see you all there, but until then, I've been Totally Not Mark, and thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, that's one of my worries of finishing it, man. I know this song. My girlfriend listens to that. That's Beast in Black, isn't it? The Beast is back. The Beast in Black. Yeah, damn. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about finishing it. I'm going to finish it because I want to watch Super Eye Patch Wolf's video on why you should still read Berserk. Because when I watched his original video, why you should read Berserk, I had never read Berserk at all. And so reading it now, it'll be interesting to see what he has to say on why you should still read it. And yeah, I've really enjoyed these reviews from Totally Not Mark. And once he puts out that final one, I should be finished Berserk, and I'm going to finish Berserk before I do Super Eye Patch Wolf video. Anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of your video, I upload a link in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all that helps support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys very much for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.